Good day and welcome to part 3 of how to manage a successful IT services consulting practice. My name is Stefan Hawkinshaw. I'm an IT consulting practice entrepreneur with many years of international consulting experience. I would like to share my experience and some tips with you to see how you can improve your consulting company and reduce some of the laborious administration tasks that's preventing consulting companies from being successful. In a previous video, we discussed the core service pillars of a consulting practice, namely resource, time, customer, and projects. These are supported by functions like time management, resource management, etc. And we identified a number of key challenges faced in a consulting practice. Today, we're going to be spending time on time management, specifically keeping track of time and expenses. Now, there's a number of questions we need to answer. Why do we keep track of time and expenses, and how do we keep track of time and expenses? But I think more important is the customer expectations versus management expectations of time and expenses. And then the challenges in capturing the time and reporting back to management and reporting back to customers on the time and expense spent. So looking at customer expectations, you would generally find that it is so different between customer to customer, project to project. And the expectation of a customer is really to manage risk. You've got a budget for a project that needs to be executed in a certain time frame. You need to provide feedback back to your peers or your supervisors or superiors on how are you progressing. So depending on the type of project, if it's a support project, it's simply enough to say, but another month has passed, you will build 8 hours a day times 20 days for the month, and that is sufficient. But it might be a little bit more complex, where you've got specific deliverables or tasks or user stories that you need to deliver to. So you want to know the feedback of how much time was actually spent against those deliverables, and what was the original budget for those deliverables, and what is the left to spend, and are you actually going to make your end goal or the end date that you set for that. So that is the expectation from a customer perspective. From a management perspective, from a practice management, is you need the ability to record time at that level. So being able to give feedback on a task, delivery, resource, day level, match that against the original budget for the deliverables or for the project, and then determine what is available, and do I actually have enough time to complete the project. Now, from a practice management perspective, on the one side, you don't want to leave food on the table. You don't want you want to make sure that you use all the hours that you are allowed to deliver the service and the value in the service to the customer. But you want to do that effectively. So you want to make sure that you plan your resources to execute the task against the task that needs to be done, with the capacity available, and that you complete the project within time. Because if you overrun, it's probably going to be an out-of-pocket expense. I mean, you're going to carry the cost to complete that project. So you also can't overrun the project. So there's a lot of balances that needs to be done, and it comes directly back to planning how the time needs to be spent and tracking that time and expenses related to that. Then the level of feedback of approval, it might be summary or detail, it might be specific timesheet templates versus general. We've had customers where they've got a very specific layout that needs to be completed with up to 5 approvers, and those approvers might change from time to time. So keeping that timesheet in a spreadsheet, making manual adjustments to who needs to approve, is a big task. But if you need to give feedback on those hours at some stage, you need to have a record of who spent what time when, and you need to be able to consolidate it as well. And then, the task and activity reporting, depending on the detail that you need to go in there. There might also be rigid billing periods or flexible billing periods. So you might have a customer say, but you always need to bill me up to the 15th of a month. So the new month always starts on the 16th or on the last day of a month, or whatever the case might be. So if the last day of a month, last day of a billing month is, say for instance, a Wednesday, I don't want to see the rest of the week in the same timesheet. You need to separate that. So that is a challenge as well. Other customers are flexible. Doesn't matter how many weeks they bill, you bill as long as you give them a monthly bill. They're quite happy, or a monthly invoice. And then timesheet sign-off versus invoice approval is always a question. Does the customer want to see the timesheets with the invoice when you submit it? Is it actually two different approvers? Does it need to be submitted on the system? So a lot of considerations around that. The key really is making sure that you track those time and expenses at the right level to start with, to be able to satisfy the different requirements from a customer. In terms of the capturing, and more to what I said, but it might be that you need to capture on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, different billing periods left to spend. Maximum billing hours, where some customers say specifically that you can only bill, say, 7.5 hours a day. So if you've got a consultant that works on multiple projects at the same customer, he might be overshooting those hours. So you need some kind of warning system to tell you that you've reached your 7.5, you're not allowed to spend more. You either need to assign another consultant or manage the expectation from the customer. And then multi or single projects on a timesheet. A customer doesn't really care because he wants to see the time spent on his projects, but you might have a consultant that is partially allocated to different projects from different customers. And capturing that time and being able to report on it sometimes becomes a challenge as well. So it might end up into different timesheets, one for each customer, one for each project, but there's different ways of doing that. And then billable versus non-billable is evenly important. From a management perspective, we want to see what time was spent, even if it's not billing the customer. But it helps us to manage efficiencies in how we do things, or to display to the customer the effort that we've actually put in to deliver a project, but that helps us to plan better for the subsequent projects. So why do we keep track of time? Quite simply, we want to bill the customers, we want to pay the vendors, we might want to use the hours to drive consulting bonus schemes or commissions. We want to measure utilization and efficiencies. We want to use it for skills development, performance measurement, contract compliance, etc. How do we keep track of time? Against a project or customer, against an assignment. It might be against tasks or deliverables or specific user stories, epics, features, depending on the level of reporting that's required. And then it might be within a billing cycle or not. And then within terms and conditions. So obviously there are conditions set out in the project that's the maximum hours that you can spend per day, per week, per month for the project, or within a specific start and end date, and you need to comply to those terms and conditions. Why do you need to keep track of expenses? For the same reasons. We need to bill the customers. We might have to refund consultants. So for instance, you've got a consultant performing a project in Timbuktu. There might be tickets, flight tickets available, required. There might be parking, accommodation, data costs, visa costs, etc. So some of those you might pay from the practice. Some the consultant would pay out of pocket and then claim it back. Some of those costs are billable to the customer, so the customer will refund you for the airplane tickets and accommodation, but not for the visa or for a passport renewal or something like that. So it's important to keep those differentiations as well. And then, obviously from a cash flow and a profitability planning, it is extremely important to keep proper track of expenses. And how do we do that? So it would always be against the lowest granular level that would possibly make sense. So it's either the project assignment or the consultant, customer, etc. It would normally be linked to timesheets because that gives us the relationship to the project. And then planned against accounting structures. So specifically, was it for travel and accommodation or entertainment or whatever the case might be, and then linked to prospects. So if there's a sales pipeline, a prospect in the sales pipeline, you want to also plan the expenses as well as the potential income against that pipeline in a future period. So where do we manage time and expenses? I mentioned spreadsheets, which is the easiest way to do that, but also the most complex way of getting analysis out of it. And then, driving billing and reporting becomes a challenge. There might be spreadsheets or Word documents that a customer required to be completed. You can use something like Clockify to capture time. It works well for developers, but if it's a mixed role like a project admin and a business analyst type of role that's mixed, it becomes a challenge sometimes to separate time. So different ways of keeping track, but you do get different type of clickers or that's available on applications either on the phone or PC. You can use a planning tool like Monday to plan activities, although the relationship between that and contracts is not really there, so it makes it difficult for reporting afterwards. It could be tracked on your ERP system like Sage or SAP or Xero, where you can record those expenses, easy for billing, and sometimes easy for claims as well. Or it could be a combination of the various tools that would help you to keep track of time and expenses. The recommendation is to have a single system designed for practice management applications where all the transactions is maintained in the same place, and it makes it easy to avoid double maintenance. So if we look at Consulteaze from a time management perspective, it does cater for timesheets, and one of the great things is it's got customer templates for timesheets, so you can generate the same timesheets into different templates depending on what the customer is looking for. It also automatically includes approvers and DigiSign as an option on the timesheet templates as well, but incorporates into the calendars, into different levels of reporting. From a financial perspective, looking after the expense planning, expense tracking. So thank you for watching this video. If you want more information on how Consulteaze can help or other tips, you can go to consulteaze.com. There's a free trial available, and you can also arrange a demonstration. Thanks for watching. Bye.